There is an estimated 43 million slaves in the world today, and that number seems overwhelming, but there are things that we can do about it. And here to speak to me today about the Walk for Freedom is Naomi and Caitlin. Naomi attends the Engine House Church, which is where we are today, and is the founder of Bringing Freedom, a local charity which has been raising awareness about modern slavery for the last 12 years. And Caitlin is also here, who goes to Harbour Church in Falmouth and is really passionate about the work of A21 and what they're doing to end modern slavery. So just before I ask you guys any questions, I'm just going to quickly tell you what's happening on the 16th. On the 16th of October, we're all going to meet up in Falmouth, a big group of us, to join in a global event called Walk for Freedom, which is being hosted by a charity called A21, and they work to fight modern slavery all around the world. And this event is happening all over the world, and these guys are helping to put that event on here in Cornwall, in Falmouth, on the 16th. So we'd love you to join us, and we're just going to speak now a bit more about why that's happening and what it is, so you can know what's going on if you want to get involved. So
absolutely,
yeah, really, really exciting. We did it a couple of years ago, back in 2019, in Falmouth, and it was really effective. So I wonder, Caitlin, would you like to share with us about that day and sort of what it looked like?
Yeah, of course I can. So I had just moved to Cornwall, and I saw that there was a Walk for Freedom happening in Falmouth. So I was really excited, and I signed up online and wore my black outfit because that's part of it. And yeah, just parked up, met everyone in Event Square, super easy to get there, and you don't miss where everyone is, all dressed in black, congregated at Event Square. And yeah, we all just met, gathered, organised ourselves, handed out signs, and then Naomi said kind of an opening talk, I guess, like a little introduction to the event, yeah. And said what we were going to be doing, walking single file, and yeah, really just explained why we were doing this, what the aim of it was for, to raise awareness for human trafficking. Yeah, and then we went on our way, and we just walked through town, single file, in silence, holding up signs and handing out leaflets to people that were interested. And it was a really cool thing to be part of, because loads of people in shops were sort of wondering, okay, what's going on here, and it definitely piqued people's interest. I think it's unusual to be part of a protest that's a silent march. It's something a bit different. So yeah, it was a short walk through town and back again. Yeah, and then we ended at Event Square again and met lots of nice people.
And that's how Caitlin and I met. So we actually didn't know each other beforehand, did we? And we had a small gathering at the Huddle Cafe in Falmouth, just some tea and cake, and just really socialising and to get to know everyone and understanding their personal purpose of why they were there on that day and what pulled them in and what were their interests and stuff. So it was really good, and that's how Caitlin and I have connected, and we've been great friends since. Yeah.
It was really effective. I remember myself, because I was part of this as well, handing people flyers and just seeing their faces as they read the stats. Because perhaps they hadn't seen the banners explaining what we were talking about or why we were doing it, and just reading the stats about how slavery affects so many people today, and just them just being surprised and shocked. And I think that's what's really effective about this walk, is it's such a simple thing to do, but it just makes people aware of an issue that is so big but isn't really spoken about. So I guess another question is, why are we doing it here in Cornwall? For a lot of people, they might think that this is an issue that happens perhaps in larger cities or upcountry. So Naomi, you know a lot about this, but why is it that you want to be doing this in Cornwall and raising awareness here, and just in the southwest generally? What happens with human trafficking and modern slavery in our area?
Yeah, well, the thing is, with modern slavery and human trafficking, it is happening everywhere. And over the years, I do find it quite interesting when I get people tell me it doesn't happen in Cornwall. And because I do go to meetings with other charities, sometimes with the police up in Exeter, that we are literally constantly learning the facts of what's actually happening in Cornwall as well as the Southwest. The Salvation Army website, they do extremely well with advertising modern slavery and giving you loads of updated information. And the figures are still quite high. And I know in recent years, so if we talk about the last 5 years, because I don't want to go too far back, we've had where people have been doing Airbnb. People, the criminals have come in and using them as pop-up brothels. So it's not just, holiday makers enjoying a holiday. People actually coming in to make use of Airbnb for their crime. But what they're doing is they're using human beings. And people don't understand that. And, the other fact that we have is that human trafficking and slavery is the second profit of criminal money. We're talking about billions. It makes so much. And if you think about it, like with drugs, you use it once, but with a human person, you're literally using them once and then again and again and again and again. So that's why there's a lot of money in it. So that's going on in Cornwall. We also had in Red Roof, we had a man who owned a Chinese takeaway, and upstairs he was using the rooms for women that were from overseas, and he was literally prostituting them out to possibly locals, people's neighbours. You just don't know. And he, the investigators ended up catching him, and he's been arrested and has been sentenced, but those poor women had to go through all of that. And another fact is that women and men and children who get caught in modern slavery, especially when it's sexual exploitation, they can be raped anything from 20 to 40 times a day, which is a very numbing figure, and something that, for me, it really sort of captures my heart for each and every one of these people. And there's also other, car washes like Plymouth. There were some raids there. The people that were working at the car washes didn't have their own money, so they were being, say, paid to work there, but then their money was stolen from them. Or there would be about 20 people living in caravans. Imagine 20 people living in one single caravan, and the caravan won't be of, luxury. There'll be old mattresses that will have damp stains on them, and sometimes there might even be animals living in there with them. Like the conditions are just horrendous. So knowing all of this going on, I think it's like a fire in my belly, and I feel that's more, something that God has literally put on my heart and has given me that calling to be like, Naomi, I want you to be a voice for the voiceless. And so many scriptures in the Bible talks about that. We need to be standing up. We need to be acting on this, and just being alert. And I've learned through, when I was in Australia and I was at the Hillsong conference in Sydney, I met Christine Kane, who founded the A21 conference. And she literally was just, giving out all the facts all around the world. And she did actually mention about Falmouth, and there was some stories behind what was going on there, which I won't go into detail today. But it just was an eye-opener of what is going on around us. And if we don't talk about it, then we're not making a difference. And I think it's very important, and this is why the single file, even though we're not talking, we've got signs. And one of the signs, I think it says, every 30 seconds, someone is taken captive into slavery. So yeah, very important to me.
And I think what stands out if you're saying that as well is our idea of what slavery is. It can be sex slavery in brothels and things like that, but equally it can just be people not being paid. Like you said, with the car wash, there's so many different types of slavery that happen. And part of what we're going to be doing in the Walk for Freedom is just raising awareness so people can spot the signs as well. So if they notice things, they know where to report it to, because there is a hotline, isn't there? There are people that the workers?
Yes, yeah. So we've got the modern slavery helpline. You've also got, the police 999 and 111 depending. And then there's just other numbers out there that you can actually connect with, which I think is really, really great. But it is to talk about it. Like even when I was training for, I think it was my 500-mile walk from France to Spain, because I was wearing my fleece that was talking about human trafficking awareness and things like that, that people questioned me, what are you doing, why are you walking? And as I took out one of my leaflets and was explaining my story, that they would openly share that they know of someone who's involved in the criminal gangs of modern slavery. And like you said, it's not just about sexual exploitation. You might even notice that someone's, like your neighbour, they could be having work done on their driveway, but one of the men who's working doesn't have proper working boots with the steel toe caps on the boots, or he's not wearing a hard hat, like all these different things that you've got to look out for. And I know there was a church in the southwest, again there was builders on the church doing the roof, not related to the church, but they were part of a contract, and just some passers-by were just like, something doesn't look right, they're not using the right equipment, they're not dressed correctly for this type of job. And it just took that one person making a difference and made that phone call. And yeah, they were all part of a trafficking ring where they were caught from their own destinations of birth and were brought over to the UK and then were forced to work without any money. And just thinking about, we also had that Newlyn incident as well, where there was a boat that came into Newlyn, and I can't remember the number, was it 35 people from Asia that was taken off the boat, put in the back in the van, and then the van got stopped on the A30 by the police because there was a tip-off. So yeah, that's quite a lot of stories already within 5 years in Cornwall.
Yeah, and so tip-offs do make a big difference.
Definitely.
They really do. And hopefully by doing this walk, we'll just be putting on people's radars. So if they see something, then they'll think that, they'll make that connection. You guys are both Christians, as am I.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask you about how this ties in with your faith. What is it that really makes you want to do this from an angle of, from a biblical perspective, from your own experience of maybe God speaking to you about this, about it being particular issues put on your heart? I don't know which of you would like to go first.
I've spoken quite a lot, Caitlin.
I'll go for it. I think, I'll talk about when I kind of first heard about A21 and how it impacted me. So I went to Colour Conference, which is a Hillsong women's conference, when I was about 14, and I went with my mum, and it was just amazing being surrounded by so many women worshipping God. But yeah, in the afternoons they had these sessions about different social justice issues, and one of those sessions was about human trafficking and A21, and it just got me. Like it really, watching that really shocked me. I'd never heard of that before. And yeah, I just felt like, now that I've seen, I feel responsible. I feel like I've got to do something. It's not enough to just know about it, really. And yeah, after that, that kind of sparked something in me, a passion about it, about the injustice of it, and I think God really cares about that. From that, it kind of sparked me to kind of do assemblies, fundraisers, all kinds of stuff at school. I wrote my dissertation on it, the whole thing of just learning about how huge and complex this topic is. It just it again every time drew me back to God, just to be like, God, please can you move in this area? Please can you, can there be justice? That kind of, from that conference it sparked something in my heart to keep going. which is why it's great to be able to be part of these things, because I think sometimes when you learn about these topics, it can feel quite overwhelming and just, well, what can I actually do about this? But I think by walking, it's like a physical action that you're taking a stand against this, and that you're posturing yourself to learn more, to raise awareness. And yeah, as you say, even those little tip-offs can mean rescuing someone and saving them from a really dangerous situation. So yeah, I'm not sure how much God was in that, but that was kind of how I got interested.
And going back to the tipping off as well, like, I remember a police officer said to me many years ago that if there's just one call about something, so if you have that gut instinct that a situation that you're witnessing doesn't feel right, or something that you've walked by and it doesn't, there's just something, to report it, because it could actually be part of a jigsaw of a bigger picture that is going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but the police are actually going through trying to put something together and getting enough evidence as well. So definitely, and that all goes down to creating awareness. Spotting the signs, and that's why again, bringing freedom is really good for those things. So through the social media platforms, doing talks here at the Engine House, it allows me to just sort of create awareness, give people the ideas of what and how to spot the signs, and how to report it safely as well.
So, Naomi, I know that you've had this has been something that God's really put on your heart. It's giving you, dreams and visions about you've been working towards. In a kind of short nutshell, I'm sure you could tell us so many stories. In a nutshell, what is it for you that really makes this something that ties into your faith and not just an issue of kind of just raising awareness for the sake of it?
Yeah, I think, like, on a personal basis, just through my own life journey, I think, and I'm probably speaking for many people as well, that we do at times in our lives, we feel that we are caught captive. And it's not necessarily talking about, prison walls and feeling like we're in physical chains, being bolted down or in a room and being locked in. But then our modern day slaves aren't like that either. So I feel that through my journey with God, He's literally has taken me out of my pit of slavery, which covers a number of things, and has literally just pulled His loving hands and pulled me out, and has brought me to my freedom. And I feel my situations, compared to what I've learned and read about the victims of human trafficking and slavery, is nothing compared to what they're going through. But I know the transition He did for me, that I want to share that, and I want to do an outward act to love on others and help, be part of that small piece of making a difference. And just, He's always given me this, I call it like a burning in my heart, where it's like, to go and rescue, to go and help, to go and restore, and it's always around like the broken-hearted. And I think that's my flame, I guess, to keep me going. There was also an incident in Thailand many years ago. I think this is probably the last time I went, and I remember I was in I've forgotten the name of it now. Koh Phangan, I think it was. No, Phuket. And it was like 4:30, 5 in the morning when all the bars had finished. And there was 2 little girls on the side of this really dusty road, and they were wearing their 3 little dresses. And I, without realising, got off my stool and started, I guess, running towards them. Because what was going through my head was, have they been here before? Are they drugged? Do they know what's going to happen to them? And I also had that thought where I just want to hold them and hug them and tell them it's okay. And my friend who was with me obviously saw at the corner of his eye that I literally just started running off. And he came and grabbed me by the waist and just sort of swung me around and sort of whispered in my ear and said, Naomi, you can't rescue those girls because you don't know who's watching. Because obviously, even those girls, they would have had someone who, I hate saying the word own them because no one should be owned, but the reality of that situation, it would have been that sort of story for them. And I just remember it just broke me, and I cried and I cried. And I think this is the first time I haven't cried, so I'm really sort of not. I try not to sit my emotion to it, because I probably would cry. But every time I have shared that story, it's very difficult, and because it takes me back to that moment. And I'd probably say, because I couldn't physically save those girls, that's also my fire to keep me going. So in a way, I'm doing it for them, but I'm also doing it for our loving God, because that's what I feel we should all be doing, is loving on others. And I'm just going to sort of sidetrack now, as we're talking about love. I'm going to share a quick testimony. And I remember for many years, whilst doing Bringing Freedom, I used to have this sort of, and I know it's wrong, but I used to have this sort of righteous anger towards all the criminals, and and I used to sometimes feel that, if I saw them, what would I do? Would I go up to their faces and shout at them and maybe give them a punch? You just don't know how that's going to make you feel. And I remember I was lying in bed, and I was like, gosh, Lord, you still love those people as well. You still love that one man. You still love that one woman that's doing the most evil things. And I was like, how? Like, for me, it just is turmoil, and I got so much anger about it. And I just remember praying to him. I was like, Lord, help me to see those criminals as how you see them. And I'll never forget it. It was like a blanket of love literally fell on me as I was lying in my bed. And since that night, I haven't had those feelings towards the people that cause the crimes. Instead, it's like I still have love for them. And I do try and share that at times when I'm speaking at church, that we have to remember that these men and women that are doing these horrific things, they have their own story, and we can't judge them. And I know it's so easy to judge quickly, but we've got to stop doing that. And we need to sort of come together as a church, as well as praying for these children, women and men to be rescued. We also need to pray for the criminals to be rescued and set free as well. So I sort of went off there.
No, not at all. I mean, the Bible tells us, doesn't it, that our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but against the powers and principalities, and that Jesus wants to set each of us free in that spiritual way. It's a slight link, but so you're so right. The motive for us as Christians to do this is to be sharing that freedom we have found in Christ, and wanting that in a physical way for people, but also in a spiritual way for those in slavery and those who are enslaving people, who are just as much caught up in sin and evil and darkness. Just as you were speaking, it reminded me of another Bible verse that tells us that religion that God really loves is when we look after orphans and widows and resist evil. And to look after orphans and widows is to look after those in society who are the most helpless. And I think that's what we're doing here in wanting to help people who are enslaved, is we're wanting to help the helpless. So we really hope that you will join us on the 16th, Saturday the 16th of October, in Falmouth. We're going to meet on Event Square, which is where the Maritime Museum is. It's 12:30.
Get registration at 12:30.
And if you want to join us, please sign up online first if you can. We will add a link to this video, so you can just click on that, sign up with A21 through their website. You can read more about who they are as well, and then just arrive at 12:30 on that Saturday to join us to do the Walk for Freedom this year in Falmouth. So thank you guys very much for talking about this.
Thank you. And can I just say one more thing? So also, yes, we are obviously doing this walk, but as you sign up, and you can do this at any time, so if you haven't done so already, it would be really good if you make some donations as well to the A21, because as well as them housing victims, they actually have the investigators and have to do all that sort of behind the scenes work, and things do cost money. So if you decide to say to yourself, actually I won't have coffee and cake today, or I won't go to the cinema this week, or whatever that looks like, and be like, actually I want to make that donation to A21, you can actually do that on their page as well. So that'd be really good to support them financially and say thank you to them for what they're doing as well. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
See you on the 16th.